$50 photo op for fans. And I think the guitarist, forget his name, but it was just like, I don't want to do this. He goes, it's because nobody's buying music. Like, he's like, there's the music is the loss leader. It's the marketing for all this stuff. And that's what's happening.
I heard John Mayer say it too. He's like, hey guys, if you want to go download my music illegal, to go download it, but buy a t-shirt.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Because look, and all these people in all the industries, it happened to the music industry first. It's happening to the film industry. It's happening in the book industry. All of these things, the world has changed and is continuously changing and will continue to change. And all these people who are, I like it the old way, dude, it's not coming back. DVD sales are not coming back. VHS sales from the 80s and 90s that people were making millions and millions of dollars, those days are gone. That window closed. And if you don't get on board with what's happening now, and also think about what's going to come around the corner, you're done. How many people said, "Oh, streaming, that's streaming. That's streaming. It's no big deal, streaming." Look at it now. Netflix is the largest studio in town. Arguably, Netflix and Disney are the two big boys in town. They are. I mean, Netflix puts out more. They spend more money on content than Warner Brothers, than Paramount, than Universal. Disney's probably the only other one, and even then, I don't think they spend as much money on film content.
Yeah,
But
it's interesting. You're right, Netflix, because like Netflix and Amazon is the basic business model is simply they're a subscription based company. So what we used to newspapers, like your local newspaper, like, hey, subscribe, pay for your subscription,
pay for the content,
and then we'll give you content. You get a newspaper every day, and then the weekend edition.
That's the deal.
But nobody then all of a sudden now there was a free internet with all this content that just destroyed the journalism industry, right?
It has to morph. It has to change with it.
But like Netflix is just simply like the whole business model is to get as many subscribers as possible. So every person every time they announce for the stocks is just like, how many subscribers did they gain? And they went worldwide. And it's crazy now. I have filmmaking friends that are doing very hyper specific content for like Netflix and Amazon for the country they're living in. Chile, now you're talking about we're in this little bubble of like LA, Hollywood, but let me tell you, it is going nuts across the board in like very specific regions, like Mexico City or
China, Mexico, India,
Europe, like all these things. So it is beyond it's just bonkers. So then one day you have a hard time with your Netflix queue right now. Imagine if they open the doors and say, "Oh no, you have access to worldwide."
But they've
content.
already started doing that.
I know.
There are the shows that come in from overseas, and you get addicted to them, like that Norwegian show and from England and other shows like that. That come in, and you're just like, Jesus. But I'm going to say something about Netflix, because there's a difference between Netflix, Amazon, and Disney. Okay, 2 out of the 3 of those companies is extremely diverse. One of those companies has one business model, and if that business model falls down, the whole company goes down.
Netflix.
And that company is Netflix.
Yeah.
Their whole business model is subscription. Sure, they have some licensing with Stranger Things and a few other things, but that's pennies. Their business model is subscription and subscription only. If for whatever reason the tides change somewhere or something happens where their subscription base goes down, their entire business model goes down. And they're done. That whole company goes away quick. As opposed to
something like Apple buys them, which is
there's a very good chance that Apple could buy Disney, Netflix, and I don't know about Amazon, but almost. I think they could buy cash.
Yeah,
that's how big Apple is. Apple's a weird company because you don't know if they want. Apple's very very focused on what they do. They diversify, but they're very focused in what kind of company they are. If they wanted to be a media company, they would really be a media company. They're still dipping their toes in it. But like with Apple Music was their dipping of the toe and all that kind of stuff with Levine and Dr. Dre and Beats.
That's I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the greatest example of any example of what does it mean to be an artist in today's world. And it's Dr. Dre with his music pedigree in terms of his brand. And then all they did is they created this Beats by Dre headphone. It's, most of the time, they're not the best headphones. They just have a really great branding. And then Apple buys them for $1 billion. So that is the level of
a few billion, actually.
Billion.
Like 1.8 billion.
Yeah. So the whole thing is like, what is it that artists do? Well, we talk about artists, musicians selling T-shirts at their concerts, filmmakers needing to sell ancillary products, outside of what their film actually what it is. Like the film is just the springboard. It's the free giveaway that you have to sell something more. The book is almost a free giveaway to sell these other things. The music is a free giveaway to sell these other things. And the best example, the highest, let's say the most profitable example is the Beats by Dre. Here's someone who made music, who had an identity. They created a product that was ancillary to the music they created, and then got bought up by.
Oh, look at 50 Cent. 50 Cent did vitamin water.
Yeah. So yeah,
he made his $300 or $400 million. He made it on vitamin water. He didn't sell it. He wasn't selling CDs. He made it with vitamin water.
Yeah.
As a spokesman for vitamin water.
Well, George Foreman Grill.
George Foreman Grill. He didn't make the billions of dollars that he's made from boxing.
Yeah.
So this is the new paradigm. This is the new world that we're in as filmmakers. If you don't understand this, you're not going to make it. If you're buying the crap that film schools in Hollywood are putting out, which is the old way of doing things, you will be left in the dust and you will not make it, and you will still have to pay those student loans back. It's just it's just the reality of the world, and you could bitch and you can moan as much as you want about it. It does not matter. The world will continue to move forward in the way it's moving forward. And if you think it's bad now, talk to me in 5 years.
Yeah, and no, my daughter's about to embark in the college in another year or so, and then but we're very thankful that she has interests in other things, but there's a way that you can balance it too, where she can still have a music career, but not have necessarily be like 100%. So it's really interesting.
She's diversifying.
Yeah, she's diversifying. Yes.
But isn't it amazing though that schools in general are teaching regurgitation, and that's 200-year-old model of education, just in general, is regurgitation.
Yeah,
regurgitation, which is the lowest form of learning that there is. But yet, in the world that we're moving into, in the job market that we're moving into, it is an information, critical thinking kind of world. I can have anything I want to know about at the touch of a button on my phone. Why do I need to regurgitate it? Whereas I should be learning to think critically, to learn how to create new things and become creative and problem solving and things like that. Those are things that computers aren't able to do yet. Mm-hmm. That's a big yet. But in 10 years, where do you think, man? When do you think AI is going to happen? How do you think that's going to affect our industry? We live in a creative industry, man, but still, I mean, look what's happened. Look what happened to, the DVD business. Look at video stores. Look at these are giant institutions. Sears, effing Sears is gone. Toys R Us is gone. Why? Because this little company in Seattle decided to sell books online. And that's and they changed everything. And they saw where it was going. And that's where you look at Microsoft. Microsoft owned everything, but they did not see what was coming around the corner. And they tried, but they didn't see what was coming around the corner. And now Google, I still remember when Google showed up, no one cares about a search engine. Look at Google. Look at Facebook. Remember MySpace?
Yeah.
That was the one that Fox bought for $3 billion. Fox bought that for $3 billion, thinking that was the next thing. And all of a sudden this thing out of a dorm blows up. Uber, all these things. If you don't look at the taxi industry trying to fight Uber.
Yeah.
I've built a better mousetrap. Just because you have all this invested in the older technology and older way of doing things doesn't affect me. And when you give it to the customer doesn't care. On a side note, all of us right now should be driving electric cars. Every single one of us on the planet. There should be no more gas-powered cars.
It's really interesting you brought that up in terms of just cars real quick. There's a couple of things you touched upon. But one is you're doing video now, like on top of your podcast,
Yeah.
and like I still just stick with audio and then whatnot because we supply content for those that in between those commuters that are like when you get either running it, doing a run or walking the dog, or you're in your car in LA or Southern California is definitely like a given, maybe half hour, an hour in your vehicle, easily.
If you're lucky.
You need this content, and people have searched out podcasts as a means to like get fulfilled this way because this is where I listen to this stuff. Well, AI, we got self-driving cars. What happens to the podcast industry? Of all of a sudden, nobody needs to listen to anything. They can actually watch it. They can actually watch content in a vehicle.
All of a sudden, things are changing, man. Look,
yes.
Things are changing so fast. Look, what we're doing right now, which is a Skype call, used to cost millions of dollars to try to do. This was $1 million worth of equipment that needed to do what we're doing now, and we take so for granted.
Yeah.
Recording ourselves across the country with, good quality audio, decent sized video, decent sized quality video, and we're doing it for free. For free. That is insane. This wasn't around 5 years ago. I'm talking 5, not 50. 5 years ago, this was a thing. This was hard to do 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Where do you think 5 years from now we're going to be with the technology that we're in? I mean, for God's sakes, the phones are so good you can make movies with it.
Really good ones too. Yeah.
Well, you can make movies. It's insane.
You were talking about some of these big companies, like not adapting and so on. It's that at a age-old. Was it the saying was that the reason the railroad business went out of business because they thought they were in the railroad business. If they understood that they were in the transportation business, they would have seen like, oh, we need to invest into the automobile or horseless carriage, right. And Kodak. The reason Kodak went bankrupt was because they thought they were in the photochemical processing business and not in the business of memories. So they would have saw like here's a new tool to help preserve memories, which is the digital, forefront.
Which they had the not the copyright, is it trademark?
Yeah,
or whatever.
They had a guy
owned
working
the technology in 1976, and the only thing that kept them alive all these years were the residuals from licensing out the digital technology to take because they own the patent. That's it. They own the patent. Or owned the patent for taking an image digitally, that technology. So all these other camera companies had to pay them. But when that patent ran out, they went bankrupt the next year. Because that was the only thing keeping them going. And they still didn't do anything in those 25 years. 25, 30, 40 years. They still didn't do anything.
That's crazy. So now, as we wrap up here, we can say, what is the bigger business? So, like for Film Trooper, it's taken me a while. Like I just focus on empowering the filmmaking entrepreneur. So really, it's the business of empowerment. So the business is simply, does the podcast serve the purpose of empowering those who want to embrace becoming a filmmaking entrepreneur? As well. So that might be in the form of books. It might be in the form of a workshop. It might be in the form of a podcast, whatever it is. So but really grasping, understanding what business I'm in. On a sidebar real quick, I've been, sporadic in these podcast publishing because I've been having to learn a new career to wrap all this stuff in. Like I said, right. I got my real estate license, and now I'm producing a show called Around the Neighborhood.tv. All it is,
by the way, fantastic show. I love it. I watch it every week. I cannot suggest enough and promote it enough to your audience. You need to watch Scott, because Scott is the most unthreatening host ever in the history of hosts. And he's just such a nice guy to watch. I just watch him. I'm like this.
Well, I'll tell you something. We were talking about it. It's nothing more than an online vlog show. So they run 8 minutes long. But see, my thing was I get to make film content. I get to, I'm now in the video space a little bit more. My goal is not to be like a YouTube superstar. So I don't have to play by the same rules that make you a YouTube vlogger where you're doing a daily vlog.
Right,
my goal is to have this content that that serves a purpose to what they call in the real estate world your sphere of influence. It's just your database of friends and family that you just let them